This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation is brought to you in part by Clay Boykin Life and Business Coaching, because we all get stuck at times. For more information, visit clayboykin.com. By Janelli Bean, for fun and engaging children's books with cute and colorful characters. For more information, visit janellibean.com. And by Wise Owl Organizing, simply set up for you. Organizing consulting and clarity coaching, virtual or in person. For more information, visit wiseowlorganizing.com.
Hello world, it's me, Dennis. I have just met Julie Cavaliere. Hello, Julie.
Hello, Dennis. How are you? Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays, since we're doing this at the end of 2022. What an extraordinary time to be alive on the planet. I mean, artists are standing all over. There are more channels, more programming, more than any of us have time to view. Any time, and we have to make our way in this, and you have chosen, as I have, to be in the business of show and entertainment, and so here you are moving along on this. So tell me, what does the end of 2022 look like for all? I mean, people can read on the bio that's going to be on the show all about you and your films, your film and your acting and all, but what's at the top of mind right now for you in 2022 at the end?
At the end of 2022, rest, Dennis. That's what's at the top of mind. It's been an amazingly gratifying year, creatively speaking. I think I'm currently taking an inventory of the projects that I've gotten off the ground this year, the ones that I have coming. So my directorial debut, Reimagined Volume Nyssa, world premiered in competition at the Venice Film Festival. So that was kind of my head blown moment that I feel like I'm still recovering from. And so that's on the festival circuit, and we're looking for its US premiere in 2023. So kind of planning that, and then having it land with M.E.G.A, who is our distributor, and then as well as the other 2 volumes we're planning in that series. So there's a bit of calculation. And then for 2023, what's next? And so I'm thinking about another iteration of that short Puppet Me. I'm looking into taking that into becoming a podcast series. So we're in development on that at the moment, as well as a musical I'm writing the book for that will also be in the podcast space. And then and then another project that I'm gearing up with a lovely producing partner and a friend of mine, Simon Tofik, whose project Ricky is world premiering at Sundance. We're going to work together on I'm going to direct again another short film with him at the helm producing. So, and acting and all of that, and just trying to, and as another person in show, right? We're doing it. We're doing it. We're a scrappy group.
Aren't we just, well, when you think of yourself at 18,
yes,
and you're thinking about, okay, I want to do this, I want to have an impelling in this area. Did you have any idea that you would be a hyphenate and be a writer and a producer and a director and all? Who was she? Tell me about her.
She was so interesting. No, I didn't have any idea I was going to be that, because it didn't really exist at that point. And when I was 18, you didn't.
What year was that? Where were you?
So I was, let me think, where was I? I was in New York at that point. I was in New York. I was going into, I had always, I grew up as a dancer, specifically tap, but classically trained all around as a dancer. I had performed just peripherally in things in terms of theater and stuff like that, although always visiting the theater. My parents were always kind of cutting coupons in order to get us to see Broadway shows, and sometimes I'm from Queens originally, just a wonderful melting pot culturally. So
Oh, it's just how rich that is. Yes. If you pay attention, you've got, oh my goodness.
We were at local colleges seeing, performances of everything. And I think one of the shows that impacted me the most, actually, we went to Queens College. There was a Chinese theater troupe coming through. And I think that was my first theater performance. And it was for Chinese New Year with the dragon and all of these things. And it was so gorgeous and electric and powerful. And I just loved it. I was just entranced. So at that point, though, I was shoving off to college at 18, and my mother would not let me major in theater. I was not allowed. I needed to have my head on straight. I was not going to be another actress floating, my wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't. My dad.
What year was this?
So this was 2001.
All right, 2001. So here we are. We're at the millennium. Yeah. We've just had that, and really, all of the media that we're seeing now was very nascent. It was very early in this that we've seen so much change in the last 20 years. All right, keep going.
Yeah. So I wasn't allowed to be a major in theater. My mom was a single mother at that point. My dad passed away suddenly when I was 15. So she was running the show, and she was running the show. So I went behind the scenes. I was studying film and TV production and film theory and all of these things. I couldn't afford to be a film major because I couldn't afford to pay for film. So I was a TV and video production major. And then what I wound up doing was just volunteer on all my friends' film sets that were film majors. I was just like trying to make it work. And then I interned. I scored an amazing internship with the producer, Scott Rudin, which was
nice.
everything. Yeah, it was extremely educational and intense and all of those things. And I got pulled into development very quickly and had the opportunity to read all of those scripts that were in development with his notes and the development team's notes. It was just the people, his assistants and his development team were just lovely, generous humans. And so I was there for quite a bit. But it wasn't for me. I didn't want to be part of the studio system. It was a bit too intense. I wanted to be creative. And so they were kind enough to write me a recommendation to audition for the Actors Studio, which I did and by chance got in. And so I pivoted and went there at the New School for Drama, studied there. And
what was that like? What was that? I mean, such a history there with this Actors Studio. So now as you're learning yourself as an actor, you're learning to, this aspect of you, because we're talking about a creator, you're having to sit down in front of a page and write, you're having to sit down with a team and direct, you're having to work with an organization and produce. You also have the acting. So this part of you, what did that feed? What did that feed there in the Actors Studio?
It was amazing. It was so creatively satisfying. I mean, you're just in a cocoon for 3 years studying the craft of acting at its most pure. And so the friends I had made there are lifelong friends. And actually, one of my dear close friends is coming on to guest direct a volume of this meta series that I co-created, and I brought her in because I knew she could, and why not work with people who you admire and love and respect. So you know,
That's the bonus, right? I mean, that when I talk to any of the people who have gotten into the A list, they always say the greatest joy is to work with people that you love and admire.
yeah, and I feel we're all just pushing a boulder up a mountain, Dennis. So if we could share the load a bit, we should. And I want to help where I can, and and I want to be helped when I need it. I want this tribe of collaboration and support and trust and all of that. And so we kind of have to lead with that, I think. And I have certainly leaned on this group of friends and co-conspirators several times. And so if I could be of service, then I should. And I'm glad that when I am in a position to do it, that I can. So yeah, so I did that for a bit, and that was amazing and expensive, and and so I came out with a master's degree in the middle of a financial collapse.
Perfect timing. Don't you love timing?
I really do. So it just kept chugging along, and I worked as an actor, parts here, resume builders. There are a lot of extremely kind and generous casting directors out there who championed me and went to bat for me and kept calling me back until I booked things, especially when I was very green. So and I love casting directors for that reason as well. And then I started to fall into like improv, and that was great. But I really started falling in love with sketch because I liked the crafting of it. It was fun to let everything go, but again, I had a background as an actor, and I craved sort of writing and dipping my toe in the pool of that, and it turned out that I kind of had a knack for it, and very supportive sketch writing teachers at UCB. So I auditioned, I put together a sample and pitched a pilot at Columbia University as part of their like pilot intensive, and I got in that and just went to like a screenwriting boot camp and wrote this short, which I wound up being in and producing and all of that, just because it fell out of me during that process. And then slowly I'm sitting there, and really what it was, my mom had passed away suddenly in 2016. And I don't know if I could curse on this, Dennis, but you run out of
Oh,
F's.
hell yes. Please feel free. We love the language and all its beautiful iterations.
You run out of fucks to give when
No kidding.
you're in hell, So I think I've had a sense of mortality, to be very honest, since I was 15. And I just got tired of asking people for permission to do things. I got tired of people putting words in my mouth, and some of them are beautiful words. It's nothing against those people, but I just got tired of not using my own voice, of not having more power in conversations. We're also talking about Me Too coming up, and all of these and questions of equity, and all of these beautiful conversations we're having. And I just was tired of not having more of a say and being polite. So I launched my own production company in 2019. Up until that point, I'd been handling development on the side. We're a wonderful executive producer, Levy, and just an amazing human. And so I parted ways with his company and launched my own. And so I did my first production was this short called Puppet Me, which did very well and was in competition at Austin Film Festival and Seattle and had a beautiful festival run. And then my sophomore project is this volume anthology series rather with M.E.G.A. So it kind of made sense to just take all of these different sensibilities that I had along the way and put them together, because being an actor has made me a better writer, because I know what dialogue should be, or I'd like to think that I do. And being on set and being an actor, a writer, I think has helped me step into a director role. I have watched and observed prolific producers do their thing and learned what to do and not to do from all of that. So now I'm going to make my own mistakes, I think.
Thank God. I'm so happy to hear you say that. One of the things that struck me when I was reading about you and studying you was that you have stories to tell, that you're talking about, that are gestating and are where. I'm not asking you to break them right here with me, but just to give me some ideas of what's impelling you, because I mean, you gestated an entire human being recently, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I did. And that has been a huge motivation for me. I mother to a 16-month-old. And the funny thing about that is I'd been pitching this project with my my co-creator, Michaela Holland, for this meta anthology series. And, we kind of went full force on it when the pandemic hit, because why not? And it was, we can create it remotely and all of these things. So we had pitched to M.E.G.A, and it was received very well. But, these things, they take time. There's a back and forth. And I signed on the dotted line, I think about 1 week after I gave birth. Right? Isn't that funny?
Yeah, exactly. Just at the perfect time. Nothing to do. Fine, no problem. I'll do this.
Exactly. And so what wound up happening, and by the way, the episode that you wrote and want to direct is the most developed, so you're going to go first. And starts in October. My son Theo was born in August, and so I was,
of
and
course.
I was like, oh,
Sure.
here we go. Okay, and so I don't even know, by sheer stubbornness. I'm very stubborn, Janet, for better or for worse, very stubborn. And I was like tagging things on Pinterest that were inspirational as I was like breastfeeding at 4 a.m. Because and the other thing was, and I have an amazingly supportive husband, and that has been everything. And I know at the moment I'm the only woman in this family dynamic that I've created. So for me, I remember my mom growing up, and she was always very strong and family oriented, but also independent. And when my father died, she took what was a part-time job and made it a full-time career, and had always been working and had always had passion and interest in all of these things. And I wanted to pass that on, or embody that, I guess, so that when my son looks to me one day, he sees someone who is a complete person and satisfied and pursuing something creative, and not only for him to understand what a strong woman is, but also hopefully is inspiration for himself one day in terms of ambition and drive and commitments, and still valuing family, of course. So yeah, that was my motivation. I had worked very hard up until that point. and I was just going to figure it out. And there were, I will tell you, there were more nights that the Meta project kept me up, or my directorial debut kept me up, than the baby.
What was it about it that kept you up? Can you give me some, can you give me an insight of that, of sitting up the type and scratching and what choices, what am I doing? What was digging?
Sure. So it's a VR anthology series that's animated.
All right. So dig in, help me with that. All right. So am I going to be wearing goggles when I am in this universe? So you were actually creating a dimensional universe that I'm going to be able to experience while I'm doing it. Okay. Right. Do I have that?
Yes, you have it perfectly. And we did it using this platform called Quill, which is this hand-painted animation tool that is completely free to just download and use. Like, anybody who has a Quest headset can use it. And so I was intrigued by that, because there's something quite nice about the accessibility of that, right? You don't need to deal with a gaming engine or any of these things. You're animating it directly in VR. So I thought that was amazing. And then just what an opportunity, again, pulling from my theater background, I'm thinking theater in the round automatically. And what an opportunity to create this world from A to Z that is where anything is possible, right? Within the limits of the technology, but anything is possible. So I was so creatively stimulated by that and inspired by it. But now, which way to go, right? What are we doing? We teamed up with an animation studio for Volume 1, and they were fantastic and had a lot of experience, working in Quill, which was very useful. And our art director, Dan Frank, is extremely talented. And so in collaboration, and I'm starting to put together this world, and I'd never directed before. So it was a lot of new things, right? And on top of it, this is all happening under my production company. So, if this goes down in flames, there aren't a lot of people to blame.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of people to blame. It's really quite it's a quite simple chain to follow. So there was a pressure on that, and then going through what I had at the time, which was just debilitating postpartum anxiety, and it's my first child, so trying to keep this new life alive and healthy and fed, and what is that sound it's making, and all of these things. It was just, I said, in some ways it was the hardest year of my life, but it was most certainly one of the best.
Exactly. And what you have learned. All right. So if you could, have you had enough space and time, Julie, to look at that time and say, okay, here was me as an artist and as a human being beforehand. Here was this fucking experience that was outside of anything I could imagine. And here am I today. Can you have any perspective to say, okay, here are my levels of compassion. Here are my levels of understanding of of the story or the depth. What is it that's going on with you as an artist that you can say, okay, I can see myself at this time growing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I grew in, I certainly learned a tremendous amount, but I think what I grew in was confidence, and and saying, like, no, that's the direction, and for better or for worse, and maybe I'm wrong, but if my instincts are saying it,
Yeah.
after a certain time, I'm like, no, that's wrong. and having the confidence to push that, and having the confidence also, and on the other side of the coin, to be like, you know what, you're totally right. You're right. That is a better idea. Let's go with that. Best answer wins. And just removing ego, because it's not helpful to have something like that in play. So just that as a learning experience, and then having conversations with other creatives, and saying, listen, I have this other idea, and people like Simon saying, yeah, that's a great idea. Like, we're working on, our project is a comedy about postpartum, and it's sort of irreverent and a bit in my style of comedy. So, and him saying like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it, let's go. So
All parts of the buffalo, right? I mean, you use you use it all.
use it all, use it all, and don't be afraid. And it could bomb, right? Like, whatever I'm working on next could be complete crap, but that's fine, and that's what it is. Like, sometimes you bomb,
Yep.
but I'm not,
But
again,
crap is manure that ends up putting the fertilizer that sprouts up others. So it doesn't work that way. And one thing I've learned at 74 is that there is nothing was ever wasted. It's only if I perceive it as waste. It's my perception that I get to choose. I get to choose how I perceive it in any way that I want. I can look at an experience and look at it all from the negative of what I didn't get, or I can say, that was an experience. What can I do to be able to do that? And I'm so happy to see you're doing this now. And one of the neat things about this, Julie, is that I believe that we're going, like the Dalai Lama said, we're going to be saved by Western women. And we're seeing women stand up around to be able to take their place as as equal partners in relationships, in business, and we're so much the better for it, because in this synergistic, collaborative space, this is where women shine. This is where we get to teach, where we get to learn, is the concepts of synergy, that we're better in community than we are as these individual Lone Ranger, that at one time before, I'll just use 2000 as a demarcation, it worked. At least it worked somewhat. But after that, things have gotten too damn complex. It is too hard to do something if you're not all pulling and rowing in the same direction.
that is true. And I think in order to do, like you said, I think in order to do that, we have to be rowing and pulling in the same direction, and we have to make room for all women. And it is our collective place to do that, to make sure that there are seats at the table, and that we are represented as a culture, and as a human culture, and as a human race. And so, and some of that might be swallowing a bit of ego and saying, this is not my place, or this is not my story to tell, and actually there's this person. And so we just have to be a bit more thoughtful and aware of our impact, and yeah. And so I'm like trying to just do my part in order to achieve that. The M.E.G.A anthology series focuses on the retelling of fables, folktales, and mythologies from around the world through a diverse, gender inclusive lens. So that was, my sophomore project out. And then from there, I'm just trying to keep the ball moving in the right direction. And it's funny, when you mentioned failure, you made me think of my husband was very close to his great aunt. And I overheard them once. My husband is French, and I overheard them once on the phone. And my French has gotten good. It's better when I have wine, but it's pretty good. And he asked her how she was, and she said, "I am the current. I go with the current." Is really how it translates. I go with the current. And I thought, how profound is that in such a casual conversation that she says, I am the current. I go with the current, pardon me, that's the real translation. And I thought, well, that's what it is, right? You're going down this path and you're just grabbing opportunities where you can, and dodging rocks where you can, and recovering and living and that's what it is. That's what it is. So your reframing of failure, I think, is very very poetic as well. I enjoy that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And if we're going with a current, that means that there is a force, there is a flow that we can actually use and leverage rather than fight. So if there is then there's something impelling us on there. And I know that when I get quiet, I can feel it, that little inspiration, the little intuition, the little place, it's there. And I love that you're in connection with that. And I love, anyway.
I try my very best, Dennis. Some days more than others, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, welcome to life, right?
Some days I'm trying to just make it on the train on time. Some days I want to just sit on the couch and like binge watch a show.
That's all we have. We can sit down. Melissa, my wife, Melissa, and I rewatched again, since you're a TCM fan. We rewatched the Philadelphia Story. I mean, when I sit there and I watch the every single character in there, not a single. It is to me, it's a piece of art that I would love to expose young, teenagers to, and say, what do you think of Grant and Hepburn and Stewart and Bussy, and you see the entire group is, and I'm just amazed by that. But anyway, that's.
I agree. And on the same, I rewatched, speaking of James Stewart, I rewatched Harvey not that long ago also. And I just thought, like, the acting in this, first of all, it's quite funny, I can't remember what year it was, but not by that standard of comedy, right. But like, I was laughing.
Exactly.
And it's extremely well done. Like, it's just like James Stewart's performance, all of that. And it's, and it's not this, Oscar contender thing. It's a comedy. It's a fun film. It's a 6 foot rabbit, right? But it worked surprisingly well from where I was watching it. So it's one of those cool surprises when you sort of sift back through the canon, and I think it's just important to do so. I mean,
it's all part of it. I mean, it's just, we can see the art where we have it. Well, Julie, thank you for this opportunity to see you and at the end of 2022. I would love to have another conversation with you as you're continuing this wonderful journey in this arc. I feel like I have met you at this time in your arc, and intuitionally, I've always been one who has been able to see talent before it pops. There is some really exciting things about you. When Nadine Jolson introduced, I read about you, and I had my spidey sense just went off. This is somebody I'm going to really want to get an opportunity to do. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for the kind words from your mouth. I'll tell you that. But it has been an absolute pleasure just talking to a fellow creative. Thank you so much for having me and taking the time and being patient, because I know last week I was sick and we had to take a rain check. So I appreciate it.
We were fine. I had plenty of them. All right. And thank you, Julie. And thank you, everyone, for watching this conversation, this reasonably spontaneous conversation with Julie and me. And thank you. And we'll see everybody next time.
Happy New Year.
This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversations has been brought to you in part by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.